So we have our search endpoint. We were able to test that out directly. Now we need to make it so that when we go to the search results page, it actually, first of all, shows up because we haven't created it yet. And then we have to hit that endpoint that we created in the last video so we can fetch the properties and show them. So let's go into we can close up the API folder, and we're going to go into properties. So app and then properties. And then let's create a new folder called search-results. And then in there, we'll create a page.jsx. And let's say RAFCE. We're going to call this, what should we call this? Search results page. And that should show up here. Good. And then let's just start to bring in what we need. This is going to be use client, and we're going to import the use state and use effect hooks. From React. And then what else do we need? We want to get the params right here, right? So we in the last video, we created the API route, and we were able to get it from the API request that we're going to make, but we need to get it directly from this URL in this page. So for that, we can bring in use search params, which is a little different than how it worked prior to Next 13. So this is going to be from next/navigation. And then to get those, we'll go right here, and let's say const search params and set that to the use search params hook. And let's see, as far as, actually we can test that out real quick. So if we look at search, we should be able to look at search params. And it says read only URL search params, and what we want to use is get. So the get method. So I should be able to say get location. And if we reload, we get null. Let's see, why is that? That's because this should have quotes around it. Reload, and we get Boston. All right. So we know we're able to get those. Now, as far as the state, it's going to be another property listing page. So let's say properties, and then set properties. Set that to an empty array by default, and then we'll have our loading, which will be true. Set loading. All right, and then let's get the params like I just showed you, but we're going to put them in variables. So location, set that to search params dot get, and then location. And then we also want the property type. Okay, so those will get the params. Now, in the use effect, this is where we want to make our request. And in the dependency array here, let's put in location and property type. So if any of those changes, this will run. And let's create an async function here called fetch properties. Or let's call it fetch search results. It's a little more specific. So fetch search results, async. And before I forget, let's call it down here. And then in fetch search results, try catch, we're going to make our request. So let's say const res, set that to await fetch, and I'm going to put backticks in here because we want to do API slash properties slash search. And then we want to add the question mark and location equals location. So we're making the same request that we made from the browser in the last video when we got the JSON in the browser. So let's say and property type equals property type. Okay, then let's check the status. So if res dot status is equal to 200, then let's get the data. So get that from await res dot JSON, and let's set the properties to the data. Else, then I'm going to set properties to just an empty array. And then in the catch here, I'll just do a console log error. And then let's do a finally and set loading to false. All right, so that should at least get the properties. In fact, we can do a console log right here. Properties. So right now we have Boston and all. Let's reload. And you can see here we have one item, one property, and it has the Boston location. If I change this to Chicago, let's do Chicago, and then we'll do house. So that should have that should be nothing, okay, empty array. But there is we know there's a studio in Chicago, so let's try studio. And there we go. So we get the type studio, addresses in Chicago. All right, so that's working. Now we just need to display the properties. So why don't we do that in the next video?